ती स्लाइड शो करून टाका ना. एक एक स्लाइड आठवत बसायला तर स्लाइड शो करा. माईक कुठलं चालेल काय ते बंद ते येतोय आवाज. काय स्लाइड शो हे काय आलं
चालू आहे आवाज येतो का विचार.
स्लाइड शो होईल का आता. नाही हे इकडचा बार काढूनच टाका कारण मग ते शब्द जातात तिकडचे. चला लेट अस स्टार्ट. एवढेच आहात का तुम्ही आज.
अजून दोघं आहेत मॅडम. स्टुडंटचा आवाज येतो तिकडे चेक करून.
तुम्ही दोघं इकडे या ना पुढे जरा. अजून कोणी आहेत का. दोघ जण आहेत मला वाटतं. ह्या डेस्क वर या म्हणजे मग तो फिरवून घ्या पाहिजे तर तुम्हाला. इथे बसा ना. हा आहे ना इथे या. इथे कोणी नसेल तर इथे या. कोणाचा आवाज येतोय. पार्टिसिपंट्सला म्यूट करून टाका. म्यूट ऑन करून टाकू ना.
अलाव जे आहे ना अलाव काढा. येस
Yes. So today we are starting with the new topic, groups and decision making. And as I had told you last time, you have to read the unit from your book or from anywhere, take the references, and give a small presentation, orally at least, on what you have learned about what is the meaning of group, how the groups are formed, and what are the types of groups. At least this much first we take. So please, everyone has to speak. It's not that everyone has to speak. Anyone can start.
A group is formed more than two individuals. There are two types of groups, formal group and informal group. Informal groups, they are organizations determined, and informal groups are determined through social contracts.
Have you read? Yes.
Groups are two or more individuals are interaction and independent who have come together to achieve particular.
Not independent, interdependent.
Interdependent to
Huh.
achieve a particular goal. The organization must decision are taken or a groups meeting. Groups are two types, formal and informal. Informal, for example, a doctor performing a surgery. There are in formal group and informal, for example, friends are together to picnic. There are some informal groups.
Okay. Yes.
So basically, there are two types of groups. One is, let's say, formal group, and one other is informal. Formal in any kind of group is summation of individual more than two. Formal group is more structured. For example, they have a specific goal, specific chronology to follow. In informal, it can be unstructured and it is more individual specific. So there can be multiple groups within the groups. It is also possible in the informal way. Ultimately, of course, group is different than the team, but this is the basic distinction between these two teams.
And yes. मराठीत सांग. Huh? वाचलंच नाही. So if you consider an organization, any organization for that matter, whether a profit making organization or a non-profit making organization, whether a college or a school, whatever type of organization you think of, and today very rarely tasks are done individually. Most of the tasks are done collectively and in groups. So lot of organizational work, it happens in groups or in teams. So we will come to the team part later on, but lot of activities, lot of work takes place in groups. When we talk about organizational behavior, the group is defined as two or more individuals who interact with each other and their tasks are interdependent. So if there are 5 members in the group, for example, so everyone's interdependence is there. Unless the earlier performs the activity, the next person is unable to continue with the act. It's like a relay race, as you can see. And so they come together, but they come together for achieving certain goal, for something. There is definite goal to achieve, and therefore they come together. Now, as all of you have said, groups are either formal or informal. Formal groups are those groups which are formed by the organization. The organization gives the structure of the group. The organization gives the task. What is, and organization defines the role of each group member, what he or she has to do in the group, how he or she has to behave in the group. And so it is in formal groups, the behaviors of the members of the group, they are stipulated by the organization. So, for example, as I have given you example, 6 members of airline flight is a group. Their tasks are independent, interdependent, and every crew member has given a certain task to be performed. And together, all of them, they are given one goal. What is that goal? That the goal of that flight is to take the passengers safely and comfortably with leisure to their destination. So the goal is common, but every crew member is assigned a specific task to perform, and how that crew member has to behave, what the crew member has to talk. So all this is stipulated by the organization. And so you will find this is the example which I have given you. Now, what is informal group? Informal group is not as against formal. It is not structured by the organization. But as we have said that man is a social animal. And therefore, naturally people come together in an organization. How they come together? They may come together by just because they have something in common, or because every day two persons from two different departments, they sit on the same table for lunch. So they form an informal group. Maybe they are not knowing earlier, they are not, may not be knowing each other, but every day they are sitting on the same table, and therefore they start talking and they start forming the group. So that is informal group. Now, this informal group in an organization comes into existence out of the need of the person to get socially connected. In every or wherever you go, you want to, even if you go to some marriage, for example, you look for someone with whom you can interact, with whom you can be. You can take lunch or you can take dinner. So you look somebody that with whom I can sit and I can talk and I can have my food. So this is natural instinct of the human being. And therefore, as I have given you example, three employees of from different departments, they take lunch regularly together and therefore they form a group. This is informal group. Now here, the organization is not stipulating any objective for them, any goal for them, neither behavior, how they have to behave. These norms are not set. But the group, this kind of group, this informal group formed, it has in the long run great impact on the behavior and so on their productivity, on their performance. Because when they talk informally with each other, slowly they start sharing about their department, about their work, about their superiors, about the organization as a whole. And slowly it starts either positively or negatively affecting their performance. And so these are the informal groups. Slide show कुठे गेला? हाँ
78 आहे ना खाली bottom ला.
कुठे?
बाजूचा symbol.
हाँ
त्याच्या बाजूचा symbol.
हे
लेफ्ट साइडचा बाजूचा.
हे
लेफ्ट क्लिक करता की राइट क्लिक होते जो.
हाँ हाँ का लेफ्ट क्लिक करू का?
हो लेफ्ट.
हाँ. So how the members of the group should behave? In the formal group, as I said, the behavior of the members of the group, that is stipulated by the organization. Now, there are certain forces, organizational forces, which decide how they should behave. Like, for example, authority structure. So what is the authority given to every member? And what is the structure to whom that member is reporting? So what is the structure or what is the position of that particular member in the organization as a whole? For example, An organization may form a group of all departmental heads to achieve or to for a certain goal to be achieved. Now, there are all departmental heads. So, what is their position in that structure and what authority they carry? Accordingly, they will behave in their group. Suppose all are equal, all are departmental heads. So, how that group will function, how the behavior of the departmental heads, when the person is sitting in his own department as a departmental head, and when he or she sits with other departmental heads in a group meeting, the behavior is different. And so, authority and structure will decide the behavior of the member. Then formal regulation. There are certain rules and regulations given by the organization as to how the group should perform. So those regulations, what are those regulations? They will decide the behavior of a person. So how often the meeting will be? For example, meeting of that group will be once in a week. So the behavior of the person is determined by that regulation, that every week he has to make himself available for that particular meeting at that particular time. So regulations decide or regulations determine the behavior of the person. Organizational resources. How far the resources are allocated to the group? The group is formed, goal is given. But if appropriate resources are not allotted to that group to achieve that goal or to perform, then maybe the behavior of the group members will be different. See, you have given, the group is given a particular task, but there is no place for meeting of the group, no designated place where the group should meet. So if there is no such place, maybe appropriate resources are not there, so group members may not be happy, and so their behavior will be, they will take the group meeting very casually. Anyway, nothing happens. And anyway, we decide, but no financial allocation is there. There is a room to sit, but there is no financial allocation for executing that particular decision. Then what is the point in taking the decision? So their behavior will depend on how far the organization is allocating the appropriate resources, adequate resources, as I can see. Performance evaluation and reward system, how that group is evaluated. Whether group as a whole is evaluated or every individual member of the group is evaluated, and how the reward is given. So we will come to that point later on. But if the group is too large or too big, and if the member feels that, okay, anyway, my individual performance will not be evaluated, the group's performance is evaluated. So even if I don't do bad, other members are doing their job. So why I should do it? So the behavior of the person will be different because he may not get that reward or he may not be evaluated individually as a member of the group for the task which was assigned to him or her. Performance of the entire group is evaluated and individual members' performance is not evaluated or rewarded. So that will decide. Physical work setting, as I have told you, that how far the physical work setting is, I should say, appropriate for functioning of the group. So whether that group is given a proper place to sit, whether all the whatever they require technical help, whether that is made available in that, all these work, physical work setting, whether that room is well lighted or not, whether they have place to take their lunch or not. So all these physical working conditions, organization strategy. Many times the organizations, they form the group, but the strategy is to show that the group is formed. But the top management or the management of the organization is not expecting anything from that group. Just for the sake of to uh, satisfy the ego of the people, the group is formed. So what is the strategy and what is the organizational culture? Whether the organization is autocratic organization or a participative type of organization, how far in this, we will come to organization culture in detail. But organization culture, whether that culture makes the people oriented towards achievement of the goal or not. Otherwise, anyway, even if the group is formed, nobody is expecting anything. So they also take it very casually. And so the behavior of the member of the group is dependent on that. अरे काय होतंय हे? नाही मागेच जायला लागेल.
शायद आहे वापरून करता येईल. हे बघा, हे जे आहे हे वरती रोल केलं
हा
की
की मागे
जाईल.
ओके. हे पुढे जात आहे. पुढे जात
तिकडे, हा, opposite. Forward is back.
So the behavior of every group member will be decided by these forces. Now, what are the advantages of informal group? Whether you want it or you don't want it, informal groups are bound to be there in any organization, whether management want it or whether management doesn't want it. But there are certain advantages also of informal group, like sense of belonging. If informally people talk to each other, then maybe they develop a sense of belonging with the organization. If they talk good about the organization, if they go on criticizing, we will see the disadvantages. But how that group is interacting with each other, what they are communicating with each other, if they are communicating good things about the organization, then that sense of belonging is developed. Then there is emotional support. Maybe a particular person from a particular department may have some issue that about his colleagues, about his subordinates, about his superior. If he talks to the other person in the organization, maybe from different department, he gets an emotional support. Hey, don't worry, this will get resolved. Don't take or don't be disturbed with these kind small things. These are very petty matters. So this kind of emotional support is there. Otherwise, what happens is that many a times an individual manifests the problem, even the small problem that he or she is facing in the department. And so emotional support may be there. Then this may be aid to job. Maybe four people are coming together from different departments. One of the person may be from earlier working in another department. He may tell the person that you are working the same, I work there, and this is how you should work. So this can be aid to the job, and the person may get clues from the other departments or other people who are working in some other departments. Then power. When you stand together, you have the power. When you stand alone, nobody is with you. And so informal groups become very strong at times in the organization. And these informal groups give the individual members also the power, the confidence that I also stand in the organization. Then advantages to the management, less supervision. If the informal group is many a times managements encourage informal groups, because informal groups, the members, they encourage one another, motivate one another, and this results in less supervision. as I have given you the example. So informal groups many a times advantageous to management because it is an aid to management in the form of getting the feedback. So the group members, one or two members, they may be called and you can get the feedback from them. But there are disadvantages of informal groups, and these disadvantages are resistance to change. When people come together, they don't want any change. So many, and then they become powerful, and therefore they resist. So many a times, informal groups, if they become too strong, and if there is a negative uh, mm, conversation or interaction between the group members, then there may be resistance to change. Then some objectives, the objectives for which they are coming together or the objectives of the organization, many a times they are given secondary importance. Let the organization do whatever it wants. I must get my objective fulfilled. So this attitude may have there. Grapevine communication, rumors, gossips, these are through informal groups. You know what happens in these gossips and rumors. And so grapevine communication, many a times the management may encourage grapevine communication. They deliberately spread certain rumors. They want to spread those rumors so that people become more alert on their toes. There would be layoff in the company. For example, a rumor is just placed. What happens? The every person becomes alert on the toes that I must not be laid off, so I must work, I must perform. So grapevine communication is both advantageous also, disadvantageous also. Displaced loyalty. Sometimes now in the informal group, suppose there is a person who has changed many organizations, many companies. So he keeps on telling other members there is nothing like loyalty. Wherever you get good salary, wherever you get good position, go, just leave the organization. So this kind of displaced loyalty also may be there. Now, how the groups are formed? Stages of group development. So certain groups are temporary with certain deadline. For example, when there was a bomb blast, a parliamentary, it is a form of committee, we will come to that, but a joint parliamentary committee was formed. Group of members of parliament. Temporary. For what? To investigate or to keep watch on what has happened, the causes, and how after the bomb blast, how the things are restored again. So the parliamentary committee is being formed of MPs from all the parties. It's not from one party, it's from all the parties. This is temporary group with definite deadline that this committee will function for 6 months, for example. Okay, so this is temporary. But this is a very unique incident that there were bomb blasts and therefore parliamentary committee. So members come together and the group is formed. Now the stages in this model include the following. First meeting is held and decide the group's direction. So all the MPs will meet first, those who become the member of the parliamentary committee. By the way, I'll forget, I must tell you that I don't know whether this library has that book or not. There is one very interesting book, very old book, I think in 1970s or somewhere there it was published by Sharu Rangnekar. You must have heard his name, a great management thinker from India, Sharu Rangnekar. And he had written a book in the wonderland of Indian managers. And that book was so popular, and it is really very interesting book. If you get it somewhere, please find it out. I don't know the publisher, I don't remember now publisher. I was having a copy, but somebody took it and never returned back. So gone. But Sharu Rangnekar, In the Wonderland of Indian Managers. That was the book title. So why I remember that book, he said that if you want to avoid the decision, form a committee, form a group. And the group should be so big and so divergent that they will never come to consensus. So, no decision making. So that was his main focus, that how in India, how the decision making is done, and therefore in the wonderland of Indian marriages. So in the first meeting, the group members, they decide the direction from how they have to go about, because there is a definite goal, there is a time limit. So they decide how they will move. Now, parliamentary committee, joint parliamentary committee for bomb blast in Mumbai. So in the first meeting, they will decide the direction. That first they will go to Mumbai, then they will go visit the places where bomb blast was there. They will talk to these persons. They will collect the information, and then they will come back to Delhi and they will compile all the information and they will prepare a report. So this direction is finalized in the first meeting. The first phase of group activity is one of inter alia and thus slower progress. So maybe initially they may decide the direction, but the progress may be little slow. When to go to Mumbai. So this again, as I have said, as Sharu Rangnekar has said, that joint parliamentary committee that consisted of 25 members, for example, from different parties. Now all of them agreeing to go to Mumbai on the same date becomes very difficult. And so initially the progress is very slow. And then when the committee uses the allotted time, all of a sudden they demand extension of time. And then initial changes, or then they start working on that. And the group's last meeting is characterized by accelerated activity. So somehow they manage and they complete that task that is being assigned to them. So most of the time you will find that the group will always demand extension of time. Now, there are certain concepts which are associated with groups. One such concept is group norms. What is the group norms? Group norms define how the members of the group should behave. And they also explain how the group's performance will be evaluated, or how the group has to perform. So basically, group norms, they define the behavior of the members of the group. Now, in group norms, there are certain details on which the group or the organization may give the guidelines. One is the role. What role every member of the group will play in the group activity? That is to be decided. As I have given just one example, Shakespeare said, all the world is stage and all men and women merely players. जग ही एक रंगभूमी आहे आणि आपण सगळे त्याच्यात कठपुतले काम करणारी एक एक कॅरेक्टर्स, असं मराठीत त्याचं केलं होतं. शेक्सपियरच्या या वाक्यांचं मराठीकरण असं झालं होतं की जग ही एक रंगभूमी आहे. नटसम्राट मध्ये वापरलं होतं ते. So every day in our everyday life also we play different roles, isn't it? At a particular point of time, you are a student. When you go to your organization, you are employee of the organization. When you go home, you are son of somebody, you are husband of somebody, you are daughter of somebody. So every time your role changes. When you are a student, you cannot behave like a officer in the organization. When you go home, you cannot behave like an officer in the organization. Or when you are in the organization, you cannot behave like a son in the family. And so you will find that all group members are actors, each playing a role. As I have given you the example, the crew members, every crew member, when that air hostess comes to you, she is an actress. She is playing a role. When she smiles, that is not a real smile, but that smile is a part of her, that role that she is playing as a air hostess. Okay, so she may not be, her regular smile may not be of that type, but when she smiles at the customer, passenger, she is playing her role. And so you will find that each playing a role, and therefore a set of expected behavior pattern. Have you ever seen that air hostess seriously coming to you and asking you something? No, she smiles. Because the behavior pattern is set. So have you seen the superior who sits in a cabin and calls the subordinate, and when the subordinate enters, he gives a good smile to the subordinate. He is seriously looking at the subordinate. Behavior pattern. So you will find that a particular position, when that person is carrying in a group, he behaves in that particular way, and that is the role. So grasping the role which is being assigned to me in the group is important. Now, it so happens that a person may be a member of two groups at a time in an organization, and each time he is expected to play a different role. In one group, he is expected to just listen, and in another group, he is expected to contribute. For example, lead the group, for example. And so different groups impose different role requirements on individuals. Now, how to know these role requirements is a problem. Many a times we also don't know. So when a boy and a girl get married, he or she, they are not used to husband's role and wife's role. What is the role of a husband and what is the role of a wife? Because they have never experienced it. And so we draw so you draw your own perception. How you draw your perception? Because you look around. You look at your father, you look at your friends, those who are married and those who are husbands now or wives now. So you look around and you prepare your own perception and you decide what is the appropriate behavior as a husband or as a wife. So role perception is there. If the organization is not clearly stipulating the role of every group member, then the group members will have role perception. And role perception means our view of how we are supposed to act in a given situation. So that is my perception. As a member of the group, in the given situation, I think I should behave like this. The organization has not given me any specific role directions. For example, when an apprentice is working in a company, they watch the experts who are working and they try to learn from them and act accordingly. So there is no stipulated behavior pattern as such, but the apprentice looks at the senior and how that senior is behaving, he tries to act like that. A small child in the house, there is no behavior pattern we have given to the child, but the child behaves as the elderly persons are behaving. Imitation is there. And so you will find that role perception is there, and unless the organization, and therefore it is necessary that organization should give clear cut role, what the how role behavior pattern for every member of the group. So another concept is role expectations. Role perception is my view as to how I should behave as a member of the group in a given situation. That is my view. Role expectations is what others are expecting from me. You should act in a given context. So when there is a meeting going on of a group, then my role perception is in that meeting, being a very junior most person in the group, I should speak less. My perception. This is my perception. Okay. Other group members, they may say that you are not talking at all, you are not participating at all. So their expectation is, because you are the junior most, you should contribute more. Okay? Getting what I'm trying to tell you? So, role expectations. For example, as I have given you example, Supreme Court judge is viewed as someone having proprietary and dignity. So how a Supreme Court judge should behave when he goes somewhere for some function or when he's sitting in the court? And a football coach, how he should behave. Expectations are different completely. And so one has to understand not only my role perception, but also role expectations as well. So in group, when the group member is there and when he is trying to perceive what role he or she has to play, he has to also understand what is expected of me in this group. So role perception, role expectation. Then the third is role conflict. Occurs when compliance with one role requirement may make difficult to comply with another. At times, this may be contradictory. In a family, for example, as a son and as a husband, there is always a conflict. Best example I can give you. So, when there is some argument in the family, then whose side I should take? Because conflicting rules are there. So, suppose there is interdepartmental group formed. There are the members of the group are from different departments. Then the departmental role and that group role may conflict. In the department, the role the person is playing, and when he comes for the group meeting, the role that he is playing, these may conflict and these may be contradictory at times. And so there will be role conflict and the person may get confused as to what exactly is expected of him or her. And so we can experience inter-role conflict when the expectations of our different separate groups are in opposition. So you have two different groups of friends. For example, one is from your school friends. One group is school friends and one group is from your organization friends. Now, these two groups, these are two separate groups. Though informal, there is a role conflict. How you have to behave in the group when you are with your school friends and how you have to behave in a group when you are in a formal group, for example, in an organization. So these may be completely in opposition. So three concepts we have seen: role perception, role expectation, and role conflict. Second is norms. So there are certain acceptable standards of behavior which are set while forming the group. So what they should do and what they should not do, that is important. It is not enough for the group leader to share their opinions. For example, I still remember, Pune University had started MBA program in Ras Al Khaimah near Dubai, before Sharjah. So Dubai, Ras Al Khaimah, Sharjah. So they were close by, but separate entities. So in Ras Al Khaimah, they started MBA course. Now, as per rules, you have to take the partner from there. You cannot be on your own. So you have to take a partner from Ras Al Khaimah, Arab partner from Ras Al Khaimah. So accordingly, one of the that Ras Al Khaimah based educational institute was that there was a tie-up between Pune University and that uh, institute. Now that course was to be started. So Pune University Vice Chancellor asked me, Madam, will you go there for first 2 months at least, so that you can establish everything and get going and start the course and see how the things are, and everything should be put in proper place. So myself, one from Pune, she was a very young girl from Pune, and one person from Nagar, Ahmednagar, he was quite old, so he was there. And one more person, I think he was also from Pune. So four of us, group was formed that you four will go initially and you will make all the arrangements. When we went there, uh, and when we interacted with that institute authorities and all these things, we came to know that there are certain norms which we have to follow there. You are uh, watched 24 hours. What you are talking, what you are wearing, what you are eating, every word of yours is watched. So you have to be very careful there. You cannot talk a single word uh, criticizing the Sheikh of Ras Al Khaimah or Sheikh of Dubai or whoever they are, even Sharjah. And you cannot criticize any system over there. So these things, this feedback was given to us by the members of the group of that institute there. The first day, when we came back, then we listed down what ought to be done and what not to be done. Because there is no appeal. If you behave in contradiction to their norms, next moment you are in the jail. Nobody can rescue you. So it was a tightrope walk, So what we had to do is we prepared a board, because we were there for 1.5 months, four of us, and then another four members were going later on. They will be replacing us. Now, when they will come, they may not be given this feedback again by the concerned institute. So we prepared a big board, and on that board, we wrote all these norms. This is to be done and this is not to be done. For example, our flat was on the 4th floor. And on the first floor, there was a OPD consultation of gynec doctor. So a lot of women used to come there for that consultation. One norm. When in the lift, there are women, one or two or three, whoever, even one woman is there, no man can enter that lift. So we had two members, male members, one from Nagar and another from Pune. So strict that they will not enter. We four can go together, but when that Arab women are there in the lift, these male members cannot enter the lift. Serious offense. Now, these are the norms, This is how the norms are. Now, I'm telling you the extreme case because we never experienced this kind of things, but you have to observe them. And the person from Nagar, Ahmed Nagar, he was quite old, that time he was around 65, 70. And he laughed and laughed. He said, Madam, but I said, sir, we can't help it. You cannot enter. Otherwise, you will be in jail and how I'll rescue you. So better don't enter. We will wait. So you have to observe those norms, group norms are there. And so you will find that it is not enough. See, when next group will come, we may tell them all these things, but this is not my opinion. This is the reality. And you have to follow the norms. It's not my opinion. And so this is the reality. And therefore, and it takes time to digest, because literally I had to pull him back because by or surely by unconsciously, whenever lift used to come, he used to try to enter the lift and I had to pull him back, sir. No, there is some lady inside. Because habits don't change in 1 or 2 or 3 days, it takes time to digest those norms. It took a long time for us. By the time we digested norms, it was time to come back. And so the vice chancellor asked me that, Madam, would you like to stay for 3 more months? I said, no, sorry, I'll come back. I don't want to. Because, we are not used to these kind of things. So, group norms. Later on, that center was closed by Pune. It was not feasible, because no way anybody from here would go there and stay and do all those dramas, and not possible. I don't know how many Indians go there and stay there and live their life. I really don't know. But in 1.5 months, I was fed up that they don't go from this side, don't say this word should not be uttered. Oh God, leave it. So this is how the group norms. This is external control on you. And different groups, communities, societies have different norms, but they all have them. When you go for some ceremony, how you should be dressed. When you go to meet to your friends, how you should be dressed. So all societies, they have, nowadays we are too much for that. Earlier we were not having so strict norms. Now today we are stipulating when you have to enter the temple, what should be your dress, and forget it, don't enter the temple at all. So these norms are very strict, And so all groups, communities, societies, they have their norms set, and you have to fit into those norms. So norms are, they influence the behavior of the group. So every organization has its own norms. For example, in some organization, cigarette smoking is banned completely. No smoking. Or they provide some smoking zone where you can go and smoke. But You cannot smoke when the group meeting is going on or in that particular place. So they significantly influence employee behavior. So I have given you some examples. Positive group norms, they really give you positive outcomes. You have certain positive group norms also, and they really give you good outcomes also. Uh, those who follow the norms, uh, if the norms are very positive, not very stringent, but positive norms, they help the individual members to perform well, then those people are satisfied with the norms. Then the third aspect is status. So the first is role, second is norms, third is status. What is status? A socially defined position of a person or a rank given to the group or the group members by the society or by the organization. Now, as I have given you example, suppose a group is of all the departmental heads. As per organizational structure, production head, because it is a manufacturing organization, production head enjoys a better status than HR manager, for example. In an IT company, for example, the head of the development department may enjoy greater status. And so status is significant motivator and has major behavioral consequences. Now, if the top management gives status to that particular group, that this group is very vital, for example, for the organization, because they will be arriving at a very crucial decision, which can ultimately help the organization to formulate its strategy, for example. So if that status is given to the group, so maybe your colleagues also may say, oh, you are a member of that group. So that group becomes motivated. And so you will find that what status is given to the group by the organization. Whether that, or as I have said, that the management of the organization which forms the group, it has to see to it that appropriate position is given to that group so that the group members are respected or they are recognized by the other members of the organization. So you give some status to that particular group. And when that status is given, naturally, it becomes a motivator. Now, from where you get the status? The power a person wields over others. So it's a power. Anything, social, religious, financial, resources, any power. So any power gives the status. Person's ability to contribute a group's role. So whether that person, group member, whether he will get that status, the other members also will feel that this member is very crucial for us because the member contributes a lot to the achievement of the goals. So whether as an individual member of the group, you are able to contribute to the group goal, that gives you status. And individual's personal characteristics. How is the personality of the individual? A type or B type, as we have seen. Naturally, B type of people are accepted. And so what is the individual characteristic of the group member. That gives the person status. Now, status inequity. In an organization, status hierarchy has to be equitable. As I have given you the example, in a manufacturing company, suppose production department head is given more recognition than HR, then there is, both are departmental heads, then there is a status inequity. So when the group is formed, in the group also, suppose there is a person from production and there is a person from HR. If the person from production gives less important to the person from HR, this group will not work properly because there is status inequity. And therefore, there has to be status equity within the organization, within the group. And therefore, every individual in the group should be of equal rank. Then the fourth is group size. How big should be the group? What should be the number of group? Whether the behavior of the individual group member has any influence on the behavior of, or the size of the group has any influence on the behavior of the group? To some extent, yes. But the effect depends on other variables also. If the group is quite big, that is, say, about 10 to 12 members, you get good inputs. There are all the chances that you get good inputs from all of them because they come from diverse backgrounds. If the goal is fact finding or idea generating, then larger the group should be more effective. As I have said, joint parliamentary committee, fact finding, and so a bigger committee. Okay? Or idea generating, suppose an organization wants to set up a new plant, say in Himachal Pradesh. Idea generating. So if the group is large, then maybe more inputs are, more ideas you can get from the persons concerned. Smaller group of about 7 members are better doing something productive. Now, bigger groups are fact finding or idea generating, but you have to really work on that particular aspect, that idea, then smaller group is better. Smaller is 5 to 7 members. Size of the group concerns social loafing. Now, this is another concept which comes in, which is related to size of the group. Social loafing. What is social loafing? Tendency of the individual to exert less effort when working collectively than when alone. So, if the size of the group is very large, there are 25 members. As I said earlier, one member may think that even if I don't work, it will not make any difference to the group. And so he may not do anything. Social. This is called as social loafing. Okay. So if the group becomes large, then there is a danger of social loafing. The implications for OB are significant. So how to avoid social loafing? Set group goals. Every group goal and every individual member's goals. Increase intergroup competition. So when the two groups are or more groups are in the organization, you have to have intergroup competition. Engage peer evaluation. Every group member has to evaluate other group members' performance. Select members who have high motivation and prefer to working in groups. So there are, select the members who really are self-motivated and they like to work with people. There are certain loners, in the organization. They like to work alone. And there are certain people in the organization who enjoy working in the group. So who are these people? Make them together. Base group rewards in part on each member's unique competition, a unique contribution. So how every individual is contributing? Also, you can have group reward system and individual reward system as well. Cricket, winning team is given award. But best batsman is also given award. Who is the best batsman? Who is the best bowler of that particular match? So you recognize the group effort and you recognize the individual contribution as well in order to avoid social loafing. Then another is cohesiveness. For a group to be highly functional, it must act cohesively. They must be acting together in a very smooth manner, willingly. They must enjoy working together. They must cohesively work together. Necessarily, they may not agree with each other, but will group be inclusive of all its members regardless of differences in background? Groups differ in cohesiveness because people come from different backgrounds. The degree to which members are attached to each other and motivated to stay in the group. Cohesiveness, whether every member of the group is enjoying to be the member of the group or not. That is important. Whether the member is proudly telling that I'm member of this group. I'm member of the Cyclist Association of Nasik, for example, that group. Whether I really enjoy that. Members have spent a great deal of time together. If in an organization, now, you know, in the earlier days, once a Kirloskar employee, always a Kirloskar employee. It used to be like that. Once a Tata employee, till retirement, a Tata employee. So people used to stay in the organization for 35, 40 years. So they have stayed together for a long time and therefore they are comfortable with each other. They enjoy each other's participation in working. And therefore, if the group is small size, the interaction naturally is more and it increases the cohesiveness. Or external threats have brought members close together. If as a group we do not perform, then our group may be replaced by another group. Now, if that thread is there, that brings them together. So, cohesiveness. Cohesiveness affects groups' productivity. How to encourage cohesiveness? How to make people work together, enjoy working together? Make the group smaller. Smaller the group, more the cohesiveness because the interaction is more. If there are 25 members, I may not be able to talk to all 24 of them. So I may be able to talk one or two persons. So I may not get connected with rest of the group members. And so make small size group. Encourage agreement with group goals. Group members should. Okay. So encourage agreement for group goals. Let everyone agree to group goals. Increase the time members spend together. More meetings. And the duration of the meeting also is more. Increase the group status. Give that group status in the organization. Stimulate competition, as I have said earlier. Give rewards to the group. Physically isolate the group. From the entire organization, isolate that group. And let that group function on its own. So that will increase the cohesiveness. Now, group versus teams. We don't say a group of cricketers, we say team. Okay? We don't say group of cricketers. We say Indian team or football team. Why we say team? Because there is a difference between group and team. What is that difference? The main difference is in the team goal is supreme. Your individual goal is subordinate. And so a work team generates positive energy through coordination. As I have given you an example earlier also, suppose Sachin Tendulkar, after completing his century and creating that record, he just throws his wicket and India loses the match. What do we say? Sachin Tendulkar is not a good team member because he has not given supreme importance. He has to stay on the wicket for winning of the Indian team. But he has thrown his wicket. His individual goal was achieved, that he has created that record of 100 runs. Finished. So, teams are often created deliberately, but sometimes evolve organically. Many people have tried to identify factors how the team should be effective. काय हे वर्कच होत नाही. हा? Now, if we talk about team effectiveness, then we have to keep certain factors in mind. Teams differ in form and structure. So, what kind of team? That will decide what kind of effectiveness is expected. The team is formed for what purpose? So, that will decide the effect. Now, effectiveness of Indian cricket team and effectiveness of ISRO scientist team, two are different things. Assumption that teamwork is preferable to individual work. Many a times, teams are created, but individuals are really effective than team, actually. But still a team is created. It is like perfectly solving the wrong problem. And so that assumption first needs to be checked properly, whether really the team is necessary. And typically, team effectiveness includes objective measures of team productivity. So you should be able to objectively measure the productivity of the team. And then you can say whether the team is effective or not. So, what are the key factors, components of team effectiveness? The resource and other contextual influence that makes team effective. Like, for example, adequate resources. Whether the team is given allotted adequate resources. Leadership. Who is the leader of the team? As we have seen, Rohit Sharma proved to be a better leader than Sachin Tendulkar or than, who are they? Azharuddin. So, leadership, climate of trust. Mutually, they should be respecting each other and they should trust each other. That is important. In team, mutual respect is there. Individuality of the individual is respected and trusted. So when you are giving bowling to a particular bowler, you must have trust in the bowler that he will do the needful. performance evaluation and reward system. As I have said, as a team, you get the award, and as an individual, also, you get the award. The second is team's composition, abilities of members. So, a team has to be a balanced team. In a cricket team, for example, you must have adequate number of bowlers, batsmen, and all-rounders who can field also well. So while constituting a team, the organization has to see to it that the abilities of the members of the team, they are properly balanced. If one person is good at contributing ideas on manufacturing, another person must be able to see from the finance point of view also. So you have to have balance. And so abilities, personality. Whether the personalities of the team members also match each other, that is also crucial. If you have a combination of A type and B type of personality, there may be some conflict. Diversity. Whether in parliamentary committee, for example, you take MPs from all the parties. Why? Because the thought process of all parties should come. Diversity. Particularly nowadays, now after globalization, now we are talking about all this diversity. Otherwise, we were talking about India is a diversified culture country, but we never had so much molding of cultures as to what today we have. And so diversity, whether the team has now while selecting the cricket team also, they balance that whether some is from Maharashtra, some is from Rajasthan, some is from Punjab, and all those things. Allocating roles. Exactly allocating the role to the each person, each team member. Cultural differences. There may be cultural differences. Kapil Dev's culture and Sachin Tendulkar's culture are totally different. He's Punjabi, he's Maharashtrian. So you have to match these cultural differences. Size of the team. Team should not be too big. Group can be of any size, but team should be limited. Size of the team. Member preferences. Sometimes team members are also asked who you would like, the leader is asked who you would like to have in your team. So members' preferences are also important. Then the third variable is events within team that influence effectiveness, like common purpose, specific goals, team efficacy, team identity, team cohesion, conflict levels, social loyalty. Now, these are various factors which need to be considered when we are talking about team effectiveness. Working on team requires employees to cooperate with each other, share information, confront differences, and subordinate personal interests for the general good of the team. This is the key of the effectiveness of the team. That whether the persons, the team members, are ready to subordinate their personal interest for the greater good or achieving the goal of the team. So these are important factors. Now, I don't know how all of a sudden decision making comes. Now, what is decision making? When you have to take a decision, what do you do? It is a selection process among available alternatives. So, as we have said some time back, managers most of the time goes into decision making process because he has to select a course of action from among the alternatives. So decisions are of two types, program decision and non-program decision. Program decisions are decisions which are of routine type, every day. Lathe operator, for instance, have specifications and rules that tell him whether the part that is made is acceptable or not. And should be, and therefore these are routine decisions, everyday decisions. For example, in a bank, if a new customer comes for opening an account, routine decision making process is there. So these are programmed decisions. Then another is non-programmed. They are unstructured, novel, and ill-defined situations of non-recurring nature. Bomb blast, non-recurring nature. You have to take the decision. So these are non-programmed. There is no precedent, for example. Or there is some terrorist attack in Kashmir. So these are non-programmed decisions. So there is a fire in the plant. For last 100 years, there was never fire in the plant, and now there is a fire in the plant. Non-programmed decision, because there is no precedent. What was done last time? So they are not defined properly as to what should be done. Introduction of new technology, as I have given you example. Now, third type of decisions are operational decisions at the lower level of management and are mostly concerned with short-term decisions. So if a customer comes with a complaint about the product, quality of the product, at the lower level, that issue is resolved, and that is operational decision, because this is every time. Every time customers' complaint will be there and you have to resolve those complaints. So these are operational decisions. Strategic decisions are made at a higher level, like, for example, entering into new market, introducing new technology, amalgamation, merger, acquisition. These are strategic decisions and they are long-term decisions. The implications of those decisions are long-term, and therefore they require more creativity. And so they are strategic decisions taken at the higher level, at the top management level. Now, steps in decision-making process. Now, this is a cycle, you know. First, you have to identify the problem. It's a cycle. You know, the first step is identification of the problem. This leads to diagnosis the problem. What is the problem? The problem is many complaints from the customers, for example. So identify the problem, diagnosis the problem. Exactly what are the complaints? So you are again scrutiny. Whether the customers have problem with the color, packaging, contents, what it is, taste, what it is. So diagnosis the problem. Now suppose you diagnosis the problem, then develop alternatives. How that can be resolved? So develop alternatives. Customers are complaining about the quality of the product, that the product is not matching the standards which the customers are expecting, for example. So develop alternatives. What are the alternatives? So you can have many alternatives. For example, change the design of the product. Is it possible? But so at this stage, you only develop the alternatives. So change the design of the product. Change only one characteristic of the product. Instead of changing the whole product, change only one characteristic. Or better communication with the customers. Their complaint that that product is not meeting their standards of quality. So convincing the customers. So you can have these kind of alternatives develop. Then evaluate all those alternatives. Which alternative has, what are the merits and demerits of each alternative? If we change completely the product, what are the merits and what are the demerits? So merits may be customers will be happy. Demerits may be it will take very long time. Our present setup does not is not compatible for the new design. So we will have to have new machinery. It will take time. It will cost more. Advantages and disadvantages. Convincing the customers. Who will convince the customer? Who are our customers? Whether those customers will really get convinced. Who has that capacity in the organization to negotiate with the customers? Whether you have a person who can do this work, a team of persons who can do this. So evaluate merits and demerits of each alternative. Based on this, select the alternative. Which alternative is more suitable? Maybe making little modifications in the product is more suitable. It satisfies the customers also, and it doesn't involve lot of investment by the company also. So you select that alternative based on evaluation. Win-win situation. Customers are also satisfied. We can tell the customers we have changed the design of the product, and at the same time we need not invest more also. Okay, so best alternative. Then implementation. Implement that particular alternative that is being framed. This problem is resolved, you identify a new problem. Okay, so this process continuously goes on. It never ends. As I said, decision making is a continuous process. This is the cycle. Okay, so now what are the models of decision making? Rational economic model. Completely rationality, 100% objectively. Decisions are taken. Choose the best alternative and maximize the possibility to achieve the goals. All the information is collected related to that particular problem or that particular decision and completely rational. So the decision maker is absolutely objectively looking at the problem without in any way bringing in his own experience, his own opinion, his own thoughts, his own intuition. All these are set aside and only rationality prevails. Second model is administrative model. Rationality model seems to be good, but whether an individual can be a completely rational person, because we are human beings, and so may not be completely rational, and therefore we settle what is called as bounded rationality. We are rational, but at the same times there are limitations of time. There are limitations of how much information you will get. It is not always possible to get the entire information, and it will take a long time also. And therefore, whatever time limit is there, whatever resources are available, we try to collect that information. And based on that, therefore, you will find that to the best of my capacity, I take this decision. That is what are the words used. Why? Because we are bounded rationality concept is there. We cannot be completely rational. You have to, as I have said that, you have to buy a shirt. Can you collect information from all the shops in Nasik? No. To be completely rational, you must collect the information from all the shops in Nasik. Do you have time? Can you physically do this? So what do, you select 4 5 shops and you collect information from that, and so what you have done is bounded rationality. Followed the concept? So in an organization also, what the decision maker is doing, he is trying to collect the information from as many sources as possible, but there is a time constraint, and also there is a source consent, and therefore we settle at what we call as bounded rationality. Third is brainstorming. Brainstorming, best known technique, because the purpose of this approach is to improve problem solving by finding new and unusual solutions. So the decision maker calls the meeting of his colleagues or his subordinates, and there is a brainstorming session. They discuss the problem and everyone gives his or her ideas to solve the problem. Now, developing alternatives, as many alternatives you can develop, you can have a better solution. And therefore, there is a limit to one's own creativity. So you can get some alternatives from some other person also. So ideas, multiplication of ideas can be there in brainstorming. But in brainstorming, if that is to be effective, then certain rules are to be followed. No idea is to be criticized. You will not criticize the individual. You will accept those ideas. You may find out plus and minuses of those ideas, but don't criticize. That is number one. The more radical the idea, are better. So, out of box thinking, as we say, the more of that type, better. The quantity of idea production is stressed. So more ideas will be there. And idea generation for others or for every member of the session is encouraged. Now there are two techniques in decision making: nominal group technique and Delphi technique. Nominal group technique is the technique communication and interpersonal interaction is restricted. The group leader presents the problem to the group, and each member, so time is given to each member. Next time they come and they present their own ideas, and after every member's presentation, free discussion is there, and then all the ideas those are presented, they are ranked, and the best idea is selected. This is known as nominal group technique. So the group leader first gives the problem, narrates the problem, asks the members to develop the ideas. Next meeting, they come with the presentation of ideas. Those ideas, all those, suppose 10 ideas are presented. On all those 10 ideas, there is a free discussion. And then those 10 ideas are ranked from 1 to 10. And the best one is selected. Another is Delphi technique. Many times what happens is that when the group members, they sit together, they influence each other's ideas. And therefore, in this technique, what is done is the problem is made to all the members of the group. The leader compiles, and then their ideas are invited on mail only. And the leader will compile all those ideas, and they will be sent to all the members for their feedback. So there is no personal interaction as in nominal group technique. So they are all done on mail, and the members analyze. So every member will analyze other members' ideas. Names may be given, may not be given. Code numbers may be given to the members. So the person, if I'm evaluating the idea of another person, another group member, I may not be knowing the name of the person. I may be knowing only code name. So I will evaluate all those 8 ideas which are given to me on mail by my group leader. I will analyze those ideas and I will give a feedback on those ideas. And again, the team member or the team leader will give the feedback to the members that this is the analysis done. So according to you, which is the best course of action? And this process continues till a concrete final course of action emerges from the exercise. So this is known as Delphi technique. Now, what is the difference between individual and group decision making? So most of the decisions in the organization, they are made by the groups or by the team. Board of directors is also a team, isn't it? So they make the decisions. And so group decision definitely has many strengths. Uh, like for example, group members or group generate more complete information and knowledge because people or group members come from different backgrounds and therefore they can contribute a lot in decision making process. Diversity of views. This opens up opportunity to consider more approaches and alternatives. So the group members come from, as we have seen, diversity. So group members come from different backgrounds. So they can give better or different ideas. As I said, out of box ideas also are contributed. This leads to more acceptance of decision rather than individual decision making. And this is a group decision. Many times in many organizations, for example, interviews are held. If that interview is held by one individual, then the candidate also may not be very happy. But when there is a group sitting in front of him, then it is a decision of the group as a whole. And that group looks to the candidate from different angles, not just from one angle. And so group leads to increased acceptance of solution. But there are certain weaknesses in group decision making. Group discussions are time consuming and therefore they don't reach to the conclusion. Now, for example, how long you will keep on mailing to each other? It takes a lot of time. And so before you reach the conclusion, it takes a lot of time. There are conformative pressures, the desire by the group members to be accepted and considered as an asset to the group can squash any diverse disagreement. So if one member disagrees with the other group members, then that individual member feels pressurized. And therefore, even if he is not agreeing to the solution or agreeing to that particular solution, which is selected as the best solution, he has to give his conformity. So that is another disadvantage. Many a times, group decisions are influenced or dominated by one or few members. Lobbying, as we say. There is ambiguous responsibility. If the group takes the decision, who should be held responsible? If there are certain, we should say what we were expecting from that decision, if those outcomes are not there, who should be held responsible? So, ambiguity in fixing the responsibility. This is another disadvantage. So, whether groups are more effective than individual, depends on the situation, depends on the context, so many things. And so group decisions are more, generally they say that they are more accurate than average individual, but they are less accurate than the judgment of the most accurate person. You have certain people in an organization who are very accurate people, so they may give good decisions also. So it depends whether a particular decision should be a group decision or it should be an individual decision. There cannot be any hard and fast rule as such. Now, another concept is groupthink. Now, what is groupthink? Is a phenomenon in which the norm for consensus overrides the realistic appraisal of alternative course of action. In any case, you have to reach to the consensus that is given by the organization, the direction and the person who is in authority says that the group has to reach to the consensus. Now, when this is there, then it becomes very difficult to have a realistic approach for evaluating the alternative course of action. Many groups, this attacks many groups, and as we have said that many a times, even if I disagree with the group decision, I say yes because I have a pressure from the top that you have to, if 10 members are agreeing, you cannot disagree. Give your consent also because we want consensus on this decision. No disagreement. And so I have to give my consent, even though I'm not for that. And so groupthink may attack many groups and dramatically hinder their performance. Now, my point of view or my disagreement may be a valid disagreement, but still it is not considered because other 9 members, they are thinking in a different way. And so it may not, that decision may not lead to perfectly solving the problem. And so many a times, certain individuals in the group, they are more dominant. They hold more power in the group, and therefore they influence, they pressure, suppress the ideas of the members who are weak and withhold the feelings or the beliefs of those weak members. And therefore, groups are more focused on performance rather than learning, especially likely to fall victim of groupthink and suppress the opinion of those who do not agree with majority. So in group, many a times groupthink may be a dangerous situation. Whether groupthink attacks all the groups? No, it is not necessary that all the time groupthink will attack. Otherwise, in organizations, group decision making would have not been there. It seems to occur most often when there is a clear group identity and when members hold a positive image of their group. When all the group members they believe too strongly in their correctness of course of action or they are of equal status, then groupthink may not attack the group. How to minimize the group think? First is monitor group size. The most important, again and again, we are coming to the same point. What is the size of the group? If the size is too big, some members may say, do whatever you want. We are not concerned with that. And so they may not contribute also. Encourage group leaders to play an important role. So here, if we have to minimize the effect of groupthink, group leader has to play a major role. He has to see to it that the disagreement of 1 or 2 group members, why they disagree, and how their disagreement can also be modified in order to bring about a consensus in the decision making. So use exercise that stimulate active discussion. It is very important that the group leader or the team leader, he has to stimulate discussion. When a person says, I disagree, and if you don't discuss on that, you just say that, okay, even if you don't disagree, say yes and consensus. Then it may attack or groupthink may be there. The person may not be happy with the decision. And so if he has, all the members have to be happy with the decision, then stimulate active discussion. Group shift, another concept, group shift. Group shift describes the way group members tend to exaggerate their initial position when discussing a given set of alternatives to arrive at a solution. हो झालं 1-2 मिनिटं. So groups may, the members of the group may shift from one group to another group because they are not compatible with the group. And at times this becomes very risky. Committee. Last is committee. As I have told you, if you read that book, In the Wonderland of Indian Managers, you will understand what committee is. If you don't want to take any decision, form a committee. That is how Indian managerial style works, you know. You might have seen this from the political, this thing, you know, form a committee. You don't want to give a reservation, form a committee so that nothing will happen. And you can just throw, committee is formed, the committee's decision will be taken, and then we will see what to do with. So you don't also ensure or agree that whatever decision is given by the committee, that will be the final decision. No, we will think about it. So committee is a group structure in an organization which works for certain committed matter. As काय चाललंय? कोणतरी काहीतरी ड्रॉ करते हे काय?
Annotated आहे.
हा?
वरती ऑप्शन आहे annotated.
पॉज शेअरच्या शेजारी
कुठे?
पॉज शेअरच्या शेजारी
Black.
हा त्याच्या
हे?
शेजारी
त्याच्या शेजारी.
इकडून लेफ्ट साइड
हे?
लेफ्ट साइड हा
हा गेलं ते. Now, committee is generally formed. Committee is generally formed for certain objective. As I have said you, reservation. Committee is formed. How to save Western Ghat? Committee is formed. So in an organization, whether pay increase is to be given or not, committee is formed. So it comprises of people who put together for accomplishment of a specific task. Once that task is over, the committee stops working. Committee is for a specific duration. The committee is given specific time, specific task. The duration of such committee for a limited period of time. So to generate an independent autonomous opinion about the situation or about any function or activity of the business, that committee is formed. How to save the Western Ghat natural resources. So an independent committee is form of scientists who can give their autonomous opinion, independent opinion about Western Ghat. So it comprises of people of various departments that are representative of their departments. In an organization, as I said, wage revision, for example, so you have a committee formed from different departments. Legal department, for example, HR department, production department, marketing department. And so they bring in their ideas about how to revise the wage structure. Okay, so this is committee. Now, what are the advantages of committee? Better decision making because experts are appointed on committee. Generally, what is expected is experts are appointed on committee. Because they are experts, they are more innovative and they are more creative. It is expected effective coordination. If the size of the committee is 5 to 7 members or so, then coordination will be effective. Consolidation, the committee is given authority to evaluate the situation and give the decision. Motivation, the committee is suppose wage revision committee. They have the motivation also because whatever suggestions they are giving, their wages are also going to affect or effect on their wages as well. So they have motivation also. Check against abuse of power. One person taking the decision, the MD saying that no, there will not be any wage revision. Abuse of power may be there, and the check against that committee can suggest. So it is his opinion. People are demanding wage revision, so the committee can find out a middle way as to how this can be done. Training base. Committee in organizations particularly is a training base for people working in the organization. When, for example, wage revision committee department, the people coming, members coming from different departments, this become a training base for them, that they can understand the point of view of other departments as well. And this is a training base for them. So these are the advantages, but there are disadvantages. As I said, in India, particularly, committees are useless. Particularly in social point of view, if you say committees are useless because they don't do anything, their reports are thrown in the dustbin. And so, as far as India is concerned, committees are useless. Particularly in organizations, they may be useful, but in social relevance, political relevance, social problems, we have found them useless. Expensive, you have to, the committee members take a lot of time. You have to allocate the resources for generating information and all those things, so they become expensive. Delay in decision making, as I have said, many a times committees demand more time than their stipulated time. No clear-cut authority. Dr. Madhav Godbole was the chairman of the committee for Western Ghat, but his report is thrown in the dustbin because he doesn't have any authority to implement that report. So no clear-cut authority. The committee is appointed for wage revision. For example, the committee suggests the wage revision formula, but the MD says that no, I will not do anything for this. The committee members has no authority. Got it? From the organization point of purely or poorly defined authority. Whether that committee chairman has the authority to implement the decision, that is not very clear. And so committees are many a times useless. So this was all about group and decision making. Okay. Now you read from your, you have copied this, no?